Hello guys, welcome to the first episode of Resilient Leaders. I'm your co-host Abdul Basit, aka AB. I'm with Mr. Latif here, and today also we have an esteemed guest, Imam Shakil, who has been a community leader in Lewisham for over 25 years. So the aim today is to really tap into some of your experiences as a community leader, and also talk about community activism as well as community issues.
One of our first questions that we have for Imam is, what was Lewisham like when you came here?
MashaAllah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Firstly, big thanks, a big gratitude to Abdul Basit and Abdul Latif for giving me this opportunity. But I wouldn't say, in terms of the community, I actually want to firstly take the opportunity to thank you both. I know, inshallah, in the masjid, we've kind of like, in smaller groups, thanked you both, but you both being leaders in the community, and especially running kind of like our youth projects. And Abdul Basit being, one of our early youth club leaders, still kind of like supporting us in our youth activities. So may Allah Ta'ala reward you all with khair and increase you in khair. Yeah, so in terms of,
how was it like?
My primary education was here. I was born in Kenya, Nairobi, but came here when I was around 7.5. So primary education, secondary education, college as well, I completed here. But early years, from a, let's say, Islamic kind of like angle perspective, you would not see a Muslim in Lewisham. You would not see a single hijabi sister in Lewisham. Talking about the borough of Lewisham. So from a Muslim Islamic perspective, how it was then, and now, alhamdulillah, across Lewisham, you'll see hijab, you'll see niqab, you'll see, Muslims present, you'll see, the masjid vibrant. I remember when I did become an imam for Fajr, sometimes it's just me. Opening, closing, giving the adhan, iqamah, and leading. Dhuhr, on a good day, you're getting 3 people with yourself. And now look, Fajr, you might have 100. Dhuhr, you might have 100.
Jum'ah, 3,000.
Jum'ah, you have, thousands and so on. So from that perspective, yes, a big change.
Racism?
Yeah, deep, very deep.
That was the 19 what?
I'll give my age away. Yeah, the 2000s.
Don't worry, man, you're still 35. Don't worry, we know, man. All right, 1970s though, go on.
Racism was, look, I think there's different ways of looking at it. It was there, it was very in your face, it was very kind of like prevalent. At the same time, you had people who had your back. I'm talking about non-Muslims. They had your back and they kind of like cared for you. So, and one thing importantly, I never really came across Muslims or had Muslim friends until late teens, 16, 17, maybe 17 years old. Prior to that, all of my close friends were non-Muslim. From primary to secondary school were non-Muslims. And I think that helped me in a way, in the same way that you were saying, that what you went through early on in terms of practicing Islam, kind of like paved the way of a better understanding later on. That also helped me in certain things.
Right. I saw that also that in the 2011 census, that basically Lewisham Borough had 6% Muslims of 275,000.
Yeah.
So 10 years ago, around 16,000 Muslims.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think 2000 it was maybe 4%. 2011 it went up to 8%, so it nearly doubled. And now 2021, I'm sure there's been a bigger increase. Remember, there's an increase of number of shahadas.
Yeah.
Every day.
Coming into Islam, literally. I mean, today, alhamdulillah, there's been a shahada of a sister, and every week there's somebody coming into the deen and so on.
How many people would you say have embraced Islam since you have become the Imam of Lewisham Islamic Centre?
I think wallahi thousands. Thousands. I mean, if I was to put a figure, I'd say about 10,000. But literally, especially the 2000 period, 2003, 4 till about 8, 9. Actually, it was shahadas weren't like 1, 2. It would be like 10 people have come taken shahada, 20 people have come taken shahada. Marlon, remember Marlon Stubbs?
Yeah.
Not Marlon Stubbs, sorry, Marlon.
The one that died.
Hitman, yeah.
He
took shahada.
Crooks, all them lot.
He brought Ryan. Ryan took shahada.
Drowsy.
Then Drowsy, yeah. Then a week after that, it's like 10 of their friends.
I remember 2004, 5. There was a lot of people that became Muslim, even gang-wise, if you want to call it that. That was the time, the SMS in Brixton sides and all of that. And I don't know if that was based on maybe after the 9/11, people started to learn about Islam, or if it was whatever it was. But there was a big push of Muslims coming in then.
Yeah. People do say, look, fashion. But akhi, Look, many of those. Marlon as an example.
Still today.
You know, and they had a sense of. I remember the next week that he brought Ryan, Drowsy, and some of the friends. I asked him a question. I said, "What do you say about Prophet Muhammad? Ryan, can you tell them about Prophet Muhammad?" After 1 week or 2 weeks, he said, "Look, that's my messenger. That's my master. That's my leader. That's my teacher. That's who I follow." And he's telling them that. So people had iman. People had iman. Yeah.
And a lot of them are still Muslim till today and practicing as much as they can. Drowsy, all of them, they're still kind of pushing it. Rascal, all of these, mashallah, man. You know, they still hold on to that level of Islam that they learnt then.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? So, alhamdulillah, man. But even if you want to link it onto that, actually, that's another topic. Is that an imam's role? Like, how many, like the roles do you play as an imam? Because there's many different positions you play.
Imam is Arsene Wenger in there, man. Yeah, you know, Arsene Wenger, he was the coach, he was the manager,
Captain.
He was also the lead negotiator of Arsenal. He was also.
But you ain't got me as player, man. That's manager. You're not a player.
No playing, bro. Stick to the sidelines, man. Manage only. But yeah, because obviously I'm gonna link it to. I wasn't involved in the whole anti-shower thing, but you was part of that anti-shower and issue and being in the middle of trying to solve the issue. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So even in that, I don't really see other areas when Imam gets involved and is trying to squash beef between two different gangs, that there was a murder in between the two.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we just hate each other. There's actual murders on a side. Someone's been killed. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So for them to come to you, how did it even get to that?
Interesting. You know, I was speaking to one of the Imams, Sheikh Al-Qayyum, Imam of East London Masjid, and he was speaking about the role of an Imam. And he said there's nothing that he's found after his studies and reading and research that is the closest to the work of the Anbiya than the Imams. Because remember, you might have a teacher, he teaches. Or you have a counsellor, he's giving counselling. Yeah? Or somebody who just leads the Salah. But an Imam, he leads the Salah, he teaches, he does counselling, he does youth work, he does gang mediation. You know, he will do all of the roles. So in essence, it's kind of like very, very close to the function and the role of, let's say, a prophet and a messenger of Allah Ta'ala. So when he mentioned that to me, that kind of like said, you know what, look, it is something which is broad. So whether it's a Muslim or a non-Muslim, whether it's, you know, gangs that are non-Muslims and killing one another, your role and responsibility as an Imam, as a leader, is to help society and reduce harm, problems, gang violence, and so on. So from that angle, we really got involved.
And the fact that they actually listened.
Wallahi, surprising, because I don't know if it was you or was it Abdul Basit. There was a shooting of some young Muslims targeting some other young Muslims about a year, maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago.
New Cross.
Yeah, and I remember, I think one of you, and I said, look, let's outreach them. And you know, they're Muslims, it'd be easy to speak to them. And I think one of you said, look, you know what, youngsters have changed. And I remember saying, look, we were engaging with non-Muslim gang leaders, seniors, and they were able to respect and listen to the Imam and kind of like resolve some of the issues. So how comes these youngsters, you can't do that now? You know, so yeah.
Well, you're basically saying they had, you know what, even linking to a level of respect, I don't know if you know this, but I remember you used to come down Deptford.
Yeah.
And obviously
I used to go and hide.
I used to hey man, this Imam Shakil's coming. Who's this Imam Shakil guy, bro? And why is the people scared of him? I used to roll with obviously Uncle Ali and that at the time.
Yeah.
So Adawa my cousin was telling me, he's like, yeah man, Imam is coming. He's coming with our Uncle Ali, and we're the leaders of these groups. I'm like, I'm out of here, bro. But you know what I'm trying to say to you? There was a level of shame.
Yeah.
Respect for someone older than you. Do you know what I'm trying to say to you? Whereas now, I think there is that there, because even when you're talking about the New Cross shooting or whatever, I went to speak to those youngsters, and there's a level of respect because they still know the name and they understand it. Maybe who someone else maybe might have been different, but the point is that group still had a level of respect. I don't know about the ones younger than them, like say the 13s, the 14s, but I think the 19s, the 20s, maybe even the 23s, there's still a level of, if you come to them in the right way, they have respect. And I think even maybe the 13-year-olds, it just depends on how you approach them. Because even at that time when I was in it, there was other elders that would approach us, till now they're 3-4 years older than me, but their approach was very wrong. Very like bullying you into leaving. And if you think you're meant to be a gang leader and someone else is coming to talk to you as if they're bullying you, it's like who are you? Then it becomes ego, because you've got two egos now coming. You're not coming in a humble way to say, you know what, brothers, look, let me try help you. Let me push. Let me do this. Let me do that. It's more like come off the roads as if they're bosses of you.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the issue with them kind of guys. But when you're coming in a nice way and humble, even the worst of people have to have a level of shame to think, I'm not going to talk to that uncle in that way. Do you know what I'm trying to say to you? So I think maybe it's more about the approach that elders and imams have rather than actually approaching these youngsters. I think that's what
that's changed now. Are you saying?
I think the approach is still the same. I think if you approach these youngsters in a way, like another story I can give you, and I was in Lewisham. I told you one time I was in Lewisham, and I see 3 youngsters, 2 of them trying to bully or rob another one. And so I had my khamis on at the time, and I think I had like a umbrella. So I've gone up to the kids, like, stop that, man. Do you know what I mean? But it wasn't like I've gone and what I would usually do and slap something and try to split up in a bully way. It was like, you know what, that ain't happening around here. And it was all getting angry. Like, that's not happening. You go and run. You have some manners, man. Leave the kid alone. It wasn't rude. It wasn't anything. Yeah. They ran off anyway. They called their dad. I've gone to the bank by then. I see the dad all like foamy from the mouth. And before even getting into a fight with him, I was like, big man, you do know I've just stopped your little son from beating up someone else for no reason. Yeah. What can you say after that? I didn't go into a fight with him. This is his dad.
Okay.
So I just said to him, look, before you get into a fight with me, not that I'm scared to fight you, trust me. But think about what you're fighting me over. I've stopped your son from beating up someone else for no reason. He had to stop.
He accepted it. Yeah.
He accepted it. And then the kid had to accept it. And then they walked away. So sometimes I'm just saying it's our approach. It doesn't have to be a bully boy tip. It doesn't have to be rude, aggressive. If we come in a humble tip, ready to defend yourself, obviously, but come in humbleness, people have to respect it. Have to. Because if we don't start chatting to these youngsters in a way to stop it, akhi, the drug game is just going to get bigger. The killings is just going to get worse. And the gang game is going to only get worse. If people don't start thinking, we need to start approaching these youngsters. Period. That has to be a solution.
Interesting you mentioned that. So Allah Ta'ala, when He speaks about to Musa alayhi salam and to go to Fir'aun, what is it? وَقُلْ لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا. Approach him, and he's a tyrant. But say to him words which are kind of like gentle. So that's with Musa alayhi salam and Fir'aun. What about, let's say, us and the young
youth
and the youth and so on?
No, 100%.
You know, also like there is lots of complaints about there's stabbings, there is drug dealing happening, women don't feel safe, and that's the trending topic at the moment. There's a lot of, you would say, community issues. Who should we rely on as citizens? Should we police ourselves? Should we rely on the government? What's your take on it?
Okay, I think it's kind of like an important, you could say, topic or question even. And I think firstly and foremostly, of course, Allah Ta'ala has given us guidance. Abdul Latif mentioned in terms of engaging with the youth. So that guidance and that value, some of the discussions we had in the past, look, Allah Ta'ala gives us the guidance. Our values must be Islamic. Our principles must, our paradigm must be revelation, Quran and Sunnah. So when we're looking at that paradigm and that kind of like guidance, what does it show you as a Muslim individual or as a Muslim community? You're part of society, you're going to take part in society. Let's not term it policing, but you know what? Let's al-amru bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. You're commanding the good, you're forbidding the evil. You're standing up against oppression, you're standing up against kind of like wrongdoing. So let's say a woman is being targeted, she's walking the street. She's being targeted for being a woman, and you're in the area or you're there. What's your role and responsibility? Sometimes it's not enough time to call the police or call someone. Your responsibility is, look, you've seen a munkar there, you've got to try and stop it. If not with your hand.
What did the hadith say? Yeah. That's what the hadith says, isn't it? Yeah. If you can't change it with your hands, then at least with your mouth. If you can't change with your mouth, then at least have a level of hatred or whatever towards
that's the weakest of the iman.
And that's the weakest.
That's the weakest of
that's
the
iman.
Wasn't there a story in a few years back when it was Ramadan, and there was a woman that was being followed by a man, and she crossed the street towards the mosque. Do you remember?
There's two incidents. There was like me, another brother called Yusuf. We were closing the masjid. It was late. It was like a summertime, but Isha 11:15, 11:30. So we've closed up everything. We've left the masjid, just the two of us. And across the street, we've seen a couple being harassed by 6-7 youngsters. Youngsters, when I say youngsters, look, 19, 20. So these are not kids. So to see them, you know, collide, pushing them, and they're just waiting for the bus. It's a couple. So we've crossed the road. He said, look, please, they're just waiting for the bus, leave them alone. So there was a kind of like a few words here and there exchanged, but you know what? They left. So that was one incident. The other one was with Sheikh Osama Lewisham. Daigo.
Yes, I think that's the one, yeah.
Yeah, so what happened, this was that was in Ramadan. The one before was in Ramadan. This was in Ramadan. The lady had come onto Mount Pleasant Road. Somebody was followed the lady, saw her with a iPhone, grabbed it and legged it. Sheikh Osama chased the guy down, apprehended him, got the phone back, brought it to the lady. The lady, you know, was grateful and turned out to be, she was a copper. She was a policewoman.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's a Muslim, to me, that's a Muslim community. You know, my vision for Lewisham is, people, you know, those youngsters that came into to the masjid now, and they look at it where it is, they don't know the history. So they think, okay, we've got this, but no, we want more. I mean,
you don't know where you come from.
Yeah, you know, where we're coming from, what we have now, that's like 100% jump. But the vision is that in our community, if there is a non-Muslim walking the streets in Lewisham or near the masjid or in our community, he or she should feel safe. Yeah, they should. Why? Because the Muslim community is observing Islamic values to keep everybody, you know, safe and sound and so on.
No, 100%. I think even part of that is Islamically anyway, and I think that's where again more understanding needs to come into, because I think a lot of people, because they've seen some people do it wrong. We don't want to mention any names, but remember East London, what was happening? People are going around taking alcohol off people and cigarettes, and like there has to be, what would you say, the balance between practicing your Islam and at the same time letting people live how they want to live, because at the end of the day you're a guest into another nation's country. So how do you differentiate between the helping of people, as in what you see good for them, and at the same time living your life and living within the government guidance, if that makes sense? I think a lot of people struggle between balancing their deen and what the deen tells them to do and maybe what a government guideline is.
Yeah. I think you put it in a word. You mentioned the word there. It's about balance, and the Sunnah is balance. And always in whatever you do or however you act, let's go back to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and see his interaction, see his character, see his actions, and you'll find when you're looking at his character and his actions in society, it's a very, very balanced approach. You know, and I think that's a key word in terms of balance. But by balance, I don't mean compromising on our principles and fundamentals. Balance is in those principles and fundamentals. And a question I wanted to ask you two, in terms of, so, you know, 14, 15, Abdul Basit, you were in the community, you came in, I think in the 2000s, yeah?
Practicing wise?
Into masjid, yeah?
Yeah. Well, from young I came to the mosque when I was young, but as in like when I'm older coming back.
As a
2013.
So how, since then, especially you Abdul Basit, because you were there quite early, and now how has it kind of like developed? What has been the positives? What has been the negatives? Is there something negative that you see within the community or the masjid, yeah, or within ourselves that needs to be addressed? And what are the positives as well?
I think the positives is the amount of youngsters that have come through the mosque and have found guidance and identity is, I don't think you can kind of count, because I remember when I came and it was like a time where it was just, I didn't know who I was, if that makes sense. I didn't know what my purpose was. I didn't even understand the basics of my religion, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? So for me, the community has been very supportive, and in a way has helped me kind of shape, like, you know, my outlook. Not just obviously, I've been radicalized. You know what I'm saying? That's what some people might term it as. But what is radicalization? Number, what is radicalization? Because if a person walks into a place and becomes a better person,
then he's radically changed.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm a radical lover. I'm
a radical sympathizer. And do you know what? Yeah, like now I've been added back to group chat.
As long as you don't become resilient leader, you're balanced. That's when you start becoming really radical.
It's the real way, bro.
And I remember, like,
what do you say about the group chat?
So being added back to a group chat with all like people who I went to school with, and I'm like I wonder you know, if I can approach them and like, how can I say, apologize for how I behave towards them. You know, how they would kind of like perceive, because of course a lot of people do wrong actions towards others, and they don't find the time or even the opportunity to apologize. But how I was then, like, it basically give me the opportunity when I was added back into the group chat to reflect on who I was then and who I am now, if that makes sense. I am the total opposite of who I was then. Because when I was in school, it was, you have to be the loudest, you have to dress the best. Do you know what I mean? Like all these kind of things where you're trying to like a bravado, you're acting or you're putting on an act.
He still does that.
Still dressing the best out of one of us, mate. Don't worry about that. Yes.
Still the loudest, yeah.
That's it, man. Why not? If it's for goodness, shout the loudest.
But that was really it. You know what I mean? So honestly, like the mosque has played an important role in my life.
More the negatives.
The negatives, people's views have changed. Muslims. So you would find that now there's a lot more confusion. You know, like when, say, early, say 2010, 2011, around that time when a lot of people were coming to the mosque, I would say there was a lot more unity. But now there's like small groups.
Fractions.
Yeah. You know, I would say also people have now views that are contradicting Islam. And one thing I would say, I would say, you know, like about 10 years ago, people had shame on social media. And at that time, about 10 years ago, Facebook was the main platform that people use. Now it's Twitter, there's Instagram. And if anybody posted anything that was not like according to the teachings of Islam, and like somebody said, you know, like fear Allah, and you know what I mean, people would straight away fold whatever they were doing, keep it moving. But now people are a lot more open with that. People will post stuff on social media that is an-Islamic. Muslims. And there isn't that level of shame that people used to have about what they were doing. So I think I would say that has grown, but also the number of young people who are practicing Islam and Muslim leaders as well has also grown. People who are proud of their identity and you know what I mean.
Could it be where maybe an increase in knowledge? So with that increase in knowledge, people's views have changed, but those views are still within the boundaries of, let's say, Islam or Quran and Sunnah. 10 years ago, okay, maybe they only knew one view. They've come across something else and they're thinking this is okay. And it might well be okay. Do you think that might be the case as well, or are you just saying no, it's definitely kind of like that's a negative and it's just like wrong views?
Yeah, I would say knowledge, definitely. People have obviously more access to knowledge and everybody, you know, back then, honestly, a lot of people didn't have phones. Not everybody had internet in their houses. Do you know what I mean? So now there's lots of course, knowledge being accessed, whether it's Islamic knowledge, whether it's you know, astronomy, philosophy, all those type of things. But I don't really know.
What about yourself, Abdul Latif? Positives, negatives?
Yeah, positives.